Hey everybody, Jason here, and tonight we are going live to chat a little bit about property management companies. We're going to talk about the pros, we're going to talk about the cons, we're going to discuss some of the costs involved and some of the fees that property management companies charge. Just trying to give you a good overview of some of the good, the bad, and what that looks like if you ever decide to research and use one for yourself. So a little background about me in terms of why I'm speaking about property management companies. I owned and operated a single family or a property management company. We managed single family homes. We managed some apartment communities too, but a majority of our units were single family homes. I think we're around 1,600 doors at the top end for quite some time. That I did that for about 15 years, and ultimately the only reason kind of left is we wanted to relocate to Arizona. So my business partner was gracious enough to buy me out, and that company is actually still up and running today. So from what I understand, they're doing really well. So if anyone ever has any property around Topeka, Kansas, and the surrounding area, Manhattan, Lawrence, maybe Kansas City, give them a shout. They offer a lot more than just property management services, but check them out. The company's called Rental Management Solutions. So let's see here. Before we get in, let me know where you're watching from in the comment section below. Even if this is a replay, let me know. I'd love to kind of see where everybody's dropping in. And let's go on and just start talking about the property management company. So one of the reasons I wanted to talk about this subject is because I think that a lot of times property management companies take a lot of heat. And I see that within the group as well, which kind of makes sense because I mean, most of us self-manage. I know that some folks use management companies. Some folks in here are property management companies, but I think a lot of us self-manage and maybe have had bad experiences. But I think that it's just one of those deals that, um, we hear about the things, the bad things that happen and things along those lines, and it's not one of the subjects where a lot of people talk about all the good experiences and the money that they've made and all the benefits of having a property management company. So that's why I wanted to kind of talk about this and just give people maybe hopefully a little different perspective, at least from the other side of the table, in terms of having that experience of running a company and working with clients, in that capacity as well. So I think that one of the problems when someone has a bad experience, and a lot of times folks will say, well, this management company won't let me make my own decisions, or they do this or they do that. I think that what we're really looking at is the the client and the property management company really aren't aligned with each other's needs. And the thing about a property management company is that since they manage for multiple clients, multiple properties, they have different responsibilities. They're the same responsibilities, but they're more serious for the property management company in terms of fair housing, in terms of applying the same processes and procedures. And property management companies, if they are doing the right thing, just like any other business, what they are attempting to do is create a process where you can bring your property in, they can run it through their machine, and then they can get you a reliable, consistent result. So you bring your home in, they tell you how much it's going to rent for, and they can repeat that over and over again. And but what that means is when they're running it through a machine, I think there's perception of that they don't care about the home as much as you do, and that makes sense. It's your home, but there's also that sense of kind of loss of control and things along those lines. So when that happens and the property owner, the client decides that they don't like that, I think that sometimes that causes some issues. Now, don't get me wrong, there's bad apples. I've seen the bad apples myself. There's definitely property management companies out there that could probably do things a little better, or maybe focus too much on the wrong things at certain times. There's so many different circumstances out there. It's hard to speak to everything, but I think by and large, just like with regular landlords, the majority of it is actually good, well-intentioned people doing a very, very difficult job. So just a little shout out for the property management companies that are out there and the things they have to deal with. Because again, keep in mind, they have to work with vendors, they have to work with tenants, they have to work with the client, the landlord, they have to work with the agencies, they have to work with their reputation. Anybody can get on there and just blast. As a matter of fact, you look at most property management companies' online reviews, usually they're not very good. I know ours weren't, but I can tell you that probably 8, 9 out of every 10 reviews was somebody we had to evict, or a an owner who was doing the wrong thing and we had to cancel their contract. It was something that happened on the other end where we had to terminate that relationship, and there was them venting out. Now there was legitimate issues, of course. We're a company, we're human. We're not going to be perfect all the time, but most of the time on those reviews, it just, there was a lot more to the story, I guess is what I'm saying. So kind of keep that in mind as well. Let's see here. So I think that one of the things I want to say here, just and again before we kind of get into like the pros and the cons and costs and all that stuff, I think that there's actually a lot of folks out there that could really use a property management company. If nothing else, I think using a property management company is a great way to kind of step into the industry and start to learn what things look like, especially if you're completely new and you've never done this before, and you're feeling really unsure and lost. I mean, you can really stumble into some trouble, and you can stumble into some pretty expensive things. And I think what's nice about a property management company is, although you're not in the day-to-day stuff, you get to see the cycles. You get to see kind of the overall macro processes of what that looks like. When the lease renewals go out, what kind of you won't get, again, the day-to-day stuff. You won't hear about all the calls the tenant's making or whatever, but you'll definitely be involved when they don't pay rent, when maintenance comes through. They'll call you to let you know about that stuff, and you can kind of see what it looks like. And so I think that's a great way to introduce yourself to property management in general, and learn what you can and kind of step out on your own from there. But again, it's not for everybody, and for a lot of different reasons. Again, clients and property management companies, or needs don't always align, and different property management companies do things differently sometimes too. So if one doesn't work for you, maybe another will. Who knows? But there's just a lot of moving pieces, I guess, is what I'm trying to say here. Okay, so one more thing. The One of the things that I see too, in terms of comments and just not even outside of the group, things I hear sometimes is, well, they cost this much, and they have to charge this and they have to charge that, and I hear the nickel and dime, and I absolutely agree. There's definitely companies out there that it seems like there's a charge for everything, and I know that with my personal company, I know we kind of went through that too. But talking from the other side of that, I, I don't think there was ever an intention to nickel and dime anybody. We were trying to figure out how to grow and cover costs as we grew, and it wasn't even like we were increasing costs to help us grow. We were increasing costs because we were growing so much, and we had to bring in new employees and new technologies and things along those lines. That overhead just kept getting larger for us. And I think sometimes, and we were guilty at different times of having too many kind of price points or income sources, and we recognized that, and then we would scale back down. We were always looking for a balance. So I'd like to think that a lot of the property management companies are kind of in the same boat as they grow. It's a balance. They're trying to figure it out too from that side of things, because I mean, you have your rent. I mean, every pretty much every property management company is going to have some sort of physical location. So you have your rent, your utilities, and everything associated with that overhead. You have your equipment, you have your software technology. If you have over a certain number of units, you have to have employees, and you have your employee costs, and you have your benefits, and then your taxes that go on top of that, and then the insurance. And I mean, it adds up. And again, insurance is a little pricier for property management companies, if nothing else, just because it's kind of a high liability type business to be involved with. So I think that when we're looking at property management companies, I think some of them kind of deserve a break a little bit. And then again, I'm a little biased because I was on the other side for some time, but I see it from the other side, and I do understand the the fine line they're walking, trying to balance the right pricing structure and to be able to cover their costs and make a little profit. I mean, the point of being in business is to make a profit. So when you see that, just kind of keep that stuff in mind. Okay, so when you're looking for a property management company, again, I'm not a big fan of just looking at reviews because again, I think they're so skewed. And once somebody puts a bad review out there, it's easy to believe. And I mean, I'm guilty of it. And as a company, we would try to reply to those in a professional way. And sometimes we would get drugged down in the mud on our replies, and which didn't make us look good. But if we didn't reply the right way or quick enough, we didn't look good. And again, most of it was just BS. The complaint itself, I mean, if all was right and fair, there should have been some sort of way just to like boot that because it wasn't legitimate at all. But I would say the best way to look for property management companies is referrals. If you know anybody that has personally dealt with a property management company, now again, keep in mind, just because they refer you doesn't mean that they're necessarily the right fit for you, but it's a good sign if somebody you know has had a good experience with one. I would also say that it's important that you sit down and talk with the owner of the property management company or whoever the representative is. Take a look at their operations, take a look at the reports, get a copy of their management agreement. One of the things I highly recommend is understanding the fee structure, because I know that I have seen some fee structures when they're advertised, they'll say, "Oh, the $65 flat fee, $500 leasing fee," and then that's all they kind of go out there with. But then when you dig in a little more, then they have a lease renewal fee, they have a collection fee, they have an admin fee, and advertising coverage costs. But and again, it is what it is, but just understand what you're getting into. That way you're not kind of caught on your heels later, because if you sign a contract that you don't understand, you really can't get upset about fees that were stated in the contract. So that's one of the things I always tell people to please look at, is know what the fee structure is. Look for the out clause, basically. If it's not a good fit, can you give an early termination? What does that mean? Just like with a lease agreement, I mean, is there a buyout, basically? And what's that going to cost you? That way, worst case scenario, you know that, okay, if it's not a good relation, it's not a good fit for whatever reasons, that you have a way to get out without, incurring, 10 months, 6 months, 10 months, 11 months of management fees for a service you're not even going to use. And then let's see what else. Yeah, no, again, just sitting down and talking with them and getting a feel for who they are. Just ask them about certain situations. How do they handle evictions? How do they handle their leasing? Where all do they advertise with? What kind of property management software do they use? Just all those questions, because just in the course of that conversation, you're going to get a really good feel for how professional their operation is, and it's just gonna give you a feel for whether or not it's something you're comfortable with even trying out. And maybe they have a trial period too, so make sure to ask about some of those things. If any of you have used a property management company, I know a lot of people have, but if you're watching this live or on the replay and you've used a property management company, let me know in the comment section below. That'd be great. Curious to see how many people actually had that experience for themselves. So let's kind of look at both sides of the table here. Some of the pros and cons of, well, let's just say the pros of self-management and the pros of using a property management company. So on the self-management side, I think the most obvious one is the direct control and decision making. You don't lose any of that authority or power. Because again, when it comes to fair housing, legal issues, rent collections, when they have to evict, those types of things, there is just a lot that a property management company, they just have to do. They can't, if basically the golden rule is, if you do it for one person, you have to do it for everybody, especially with a property management company. Now, if you're a single family homeowner with only one home, obviously there's a little bit more flexibility there. It's not the case with property management companies. So keep that in mind. You do lose control. But again, if it's a good property management company, what you're looking for is that system. You're looking to be able to give them your product and let them make you money. There's no point of hiring a property management company if you have a desire to call the shots. It's just not quite the way that it works. And plus, they can't let you for a lot of different reasons. The property condition is another, I would say, pro of self management. I would say that property owners who self manage tend to watch out for their property. I don't want to say better, but more, they spend more time on it. I mean, there's less to focus on, so they can look at those things, and they have more of attachment to it, and they care more, for lack of better words. I don't want to say that property management companies don't care, but again, they have to make it work within their system, or they can never scale, and they can never make that system effective either. So I would say that the condition will sometimes potentially be better if you are managing it yourself. I mean, you'll be able to catch things a little quicker sometimes. Um, you know, I would say that there is a absolute benefit to self management when it comes to learning the school of hard knocks, the experience. You get up to speed very quick. Now, it's a tough path. I think all of us who have owned a property, and especially for those of us that have self-managed, we know we learn the lessons the hard way. We research the best that we can, and usually we learn once something goes wrong and we figure out that we're not quite prepared for it the right way. The good thing is that we adjust for it and we know for the next time. But again, those are tough lessons, sometimes expensive lessons. I think that is a much quicker way to learn, and I think that if you self-manage for a year, 2 years, you're going to be far more capable of managing more property for yourself than if you were to have it with a property management company for a couple of years and then buy more property and try to self-manage. I think that's tough to do. So the experience component is definitely part of it. Cost savings, obviously, property management companies have to make money, and that money is going to come from fees they charge you. So that absolutely helps. I would also say there's an argument that the right property management company, especially if you're not very experienced, can save you a lot of money too by screening the right way and doing the inspections and catching things before they blow up. Moving on evictions quicker, things along those lines. They can be in a position to save you more money, because a lot of times those mistakes and those lessons that we're learning end up being costly as well. Just checking my comments there real quick, make sure there's nothing about. Speaking of which, if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the comments below as well. And kind of when I wrap up this side of it, I'll jump on a quick Q&A and see if I can answer any of those for you. Okay, where do we leave off here? Tenant interaction. So usually when it's with a property management company, again, the property owner shouldn't have contact with the tenant, because the contact with the tenant from the property owner, when it's under the management of a company, could actually expose them to liability. If the owner is telling them things that the management company can't necessarily do because their policies prohibit that. Again, a property management company, they have to treat everybody the same. So if a property owner makes a commitment to do something that the property management company cannot do, that causes issues. A lot of times, property owners aren't aware of some of that stuff either. So, I mean, that causes some conflict. But I will say that the tenant interaction and tenant relationship, for better or worse, is another kind of good thing. Because, I mean, if you get the right tenant, I've absolutely benefited from good tenant relationships as a landlord. I think that if you form the right one, they'll stay longer. You won't have as many problems with the rent, because, again, it's about the relationship. To our property management company, a lot of times it's just another bill for them to pay. So there could be some advantages along those lines as well. And then, of course, the flexibility, like we were just talking about. You can do some things that the property management company cannot do. So especially if you only own one property, I mean, you can move a little bit differently, and you just have a little bit more flexibility. So all pros of self-management, all things that you would benefit as a as an owner that does not use a management company. Okay, pros of a property management company. So the expertise in the property management laws and the regulations. It doesn't take very long, especially with the volume most property management companies are into. They usually have their processes pretty dialed in. Again, doesn't mean they can't make mistakes. Doesn't mean that things don't change as they grow and they don't have their lessons to learn too. They do, but when you compare a property management company to newer landlords, especially first 3 to 5 years of a landlord being a landlord, property management companies know that stuff very well, and most of their systems are set up to avoid the issues in the first place. So they have screening criteria. They have they apply the same processes and policies to everybody. They have a standardized move-in process, and this is all stuff that you can do on your own. Matter of fact, it's one of the things that when I do coaching is that's what I focus on, is really the structure and building that stuff out so you can avoid the problems before they even happen. And I think that comes from the property management side of things. So that is absolutely a plus of using a property management company. I think there's only 2 states that a person can manage rental property without being a licensed broker. And Kansas is one of them. I can't remember where the other one is. But what that means for you is that there's actually a regulatory body, basically, that is monitoring and working with licensed agents and brokers. And there are ethics that brokers and agents have to abide by, and there's a whole body there, a professional body that kind of looks over that. So worst case scenario, there is someone that you can contact as a client if the broker and the agent is doing things they shouldn't be doing. You do have some extra help there, so that's actually a pro of using a property management company. But that's also one of the reasons why I think most property, not because of that, but to become a broker is difficult. I have my broker's license. I don't use it for anything as of right now, but it was not easy to get. You have to meet experience requirements. I mean, the schooling was a little longer than the agent side of it. The testing, if you've ever taken one of them, those aren't pieces of cake either. So there are hoops. Not everybody can just jump in and start managing property in most of the states. Let's see. Like I said, process and documents are up to date. Like I said, they got that. And it's just everything. I mean, on the processes. I mean, they know how to market. They know how to look at the rent. They know how to collect rent, and they know when to send the notice to vacates for non-payment of rent, and they usually have connections with attorneys and that process all their evictions, and they can get them a lot cheaper because they're running volume. They have all the vendor connections. A lot of times property management companies will even have an in-house maintenance crew, which is usually cheaper than what the normal person can go out and get the service done for. I know that, I mean, it's been a while now, but I know at one time we were charging for HVAC, we were charging like $55 an hour and for our clients, and our clients couldn't go out there and get it for less than 85 to 100, and even that was probably on the cheaper end, the smaller operation side of things. And we had good HVAC techs that would take care of that stuff. So we were able to charge a rate that made sense for us, and we were able to pass that savings along as well as a win-win. But not all management companies do that, but some do. So I mean, that may be one of the questions you ask as well. And then the bookkeeping and the accounting, I mean, the reporting function of it. Now, again, I've been in property management for a long time, and I started in multifamily and then did the management company. And me personally, I'm big on numbers, even the single family numbers. I want to know how they perform. I like to see that 12-month income statement. I like to see the trends. I like to make sure all the bills are paid. I like to see if there's any spike in maintenance. I mean, that's all stuff that I look at. So if you don't know how to do that, there's a wealth of information there, and a property management company delivers those to you monthly, typically, along with your check, and it shows you, yes, this is the money you've taken in, this is the money that's gone out, and you can see very quickly if your property is performing for you or not. So that is an absolute pro of using a property management company. For those of us who can let go and let the management company do their job, I think that relieves a lot of stress. There's no conflict. There's not the middle of the night calls. You're usually not dealing with the calls that they're taking in. Yes, it's never fun getting a call about maintenance or approval and or that rent's not paid, of course, but you would be dealing with those anyway. So the property management company is kind of that front line that takes a lot of that off your plate. And especially if you're at a place where you have enough properties to where it's difficult for, I mean, most people that are that have their properties are also working full-time jobs, most people. So there is a point where it becomes too much, and there's this kind of this weird little lull area to where it's not quite enough properties to quit your job, but it's it's still too much to handle easily when you're working full time, have a family, or whatever else you have going on in your life. So there's absolutely that kind of time and stress management and freeing you up from that. And again, like I said earlier, is that you can learn a lot from using property management companies, seeing how they do things, looking at their processes, and so on. Okay, typical charges. Now, property management companies, they vary. There's, you know, there's different ways to approach it, but at the end of the day, what you really want to look at is what's kind of that annualized cost. That is, what's it going to cost you either annual or on a monthly basis? Big picture. I like annualized, and even if you because leasing fees only happen once a year typically and those types of things. So if you get your total cost projections and then divide that by 12, you can look at your potential monthly. But whatever it is, understand the costs are involved. So the first one is going to be your management fees. Now, this is usually either a percentage or a flat fee. And I've seen management fees anywhere from 5 to 10%. I've seen flat fees, gosh, as low as probably, I don't know. I haven't seen these for a while, but I know at one time we were charging when we first started. It was like $25 or $35 a month. I mean, this is 2004, 2005, so even then it was probably low. But I mean, even when I left and moved here, 2018, I think we still had some clients that had been with us for a long time, but we were only charging flat fees of $50 a month. I've also seen flat fees push up to 100, 125, 150. I've seen kind of like the attempt we tried to do like an kind of like an all-inclusive approach to where we like bundled all the fees together and just charged one fee per month, and that was a little higher. I think we were charging like $110 a month, somewhere in that range. And that's all relative. I mean, if your rent's $500 a month, $100 a month is pretty excessive. But I mean, if it's 2,000, 2,500 or more, it's not really all that much. So you got to kind of take that in consideration. Most management companies are going to charge you some sort of leasing fee. This can range half month's rent, full month's rent. It could be a percentage. I've seen some agents. What they'll do is whatever the rent is, if they get a year lease, let's just say $1,000 a month. What they'll do is they'll take the total value of that lease, $12,000, and then they'll apply their commission to it. Their 3.5, their 5, their 6, 7, whatever that is, and that will be the leasing fee. I've seen that approach. But again, what you're really looking for is what's that all-in number. I mean, whatever the percentage is, what does that equate to over the course of a year in terms of a dollar amount? Lease renewal fees. There is actually, and again, keep in mind all these income sources are designed to cover costs in large part. There's a profit margin built in, of course, but most companies, what they're looking for first and foremost, okay, what are my costs? What is my overhead? What is the margin I need to meet in terms of profit to be able to continue to do business and keep this business open? So that's kind of the layers there. So when you're looking at a lease renewal fee, what are you looking at? You're looking at all of the attempts to reach out to that client, whether it be letters, whether it be phone calls, and then if they agree to it, then either putting the new paperwork together, getting them reset up in the system, making any changes. So point being is there's actual responsibilities behind here that which is why they're kind of charging to cover for those extra expenses, because generally speaking, a management fee for the most part was originally designed to cover like accounting and admin and stuff like that, not necessarily the whole picture. But regardless, some places charge a leasing fee again, or a lease renewal fee. So if they get you another year lease, maybe they charge you $200, maybe $300, maybe $500. I don't know. Just know what that is. Look at the management contract. Inspections. Find out how many inspections are actually included. See if they charge you per inspection. inspection. I definitely like management companies that get into the house at least quarterly, and that's great. But if they're going to do that, then are they going to charge you every time they go over there? Um, I've seen them. I've seen some included. I've seen some where they've included the first two and then charge you for whatever additional that you want. I've seen them $50. I've seen them 75. I've seen them more. So again, it varies. Just know what that is. Let's see here. Marketing. I've seen some companies charge marketing fees, and this is to cover the cost of additional advertising. Of course, they have their website, which pushes out to. They syndicate out to a lot of other websites. They'll have their signs, and they'll have whatever their normal marketing is. But if it gets into things that cost more than that, typically they'll charge you more. Usually it's just to cover the cost of the additional marketing. But I have seen property management companies that say, okay, this is all the stuff we do for marketing, and this advertising fee, this marketing fee covers that part of our expense. So I've seen both of those things. Again, just know what you're getting into. Maintenance. Now, we talked about the in-house maintenance. Another approach I've seen is where management companies will charge a percentage of whatever the invoice is, and that's just for all of the administrative side of it. So making the calls, scheduling, following up, making sure the repairs are done, receiving the invoice, and all that stuff. So I've seen people do a markup there anywhere between, I don't know, 5, 10, 15. I've actually seen 20%, although I think 20% for me is a little steep, but it's out there. And if you're okay with it, that's fine too. So those are some of the typical fees charged by a management company that will, I guess, come out of your pocket. Some of the, there's also other fees that are more tenant based. And I don't know, I think that as a management company, I tried to lean on more of the tenant based type of fees as much as possible as opposed to our clients, because again, I wanted to make it as affordable as possible for them. But some of those obvious ones, application fee, again, I've seen them. Right now I see them anywhere between $50 and $75. I've seen them as high as $100 per adult. Sometimes they'll say a reduced price for a married couple, and that's assuming that not all states allow somebody to charge a flat-out application fee either. Sometimes it's just the cost of credit. So each state may be a little different there, but application fees is one of the tenant-based fees. I've seen admin fees anywhere between $100 and $500. I've seen that in a multifamily community as well, and their justification is that's preparing all the paperwork and the move-in paperwork and getting everything all set up. That's their justification for it, at least in the multifamily side. Late fee collection. So as a property management company, one of the things we did is we said, okay, we are going to charge whatever we collect in late fees, we're going to keep half of. And our reasoning there is that the collection process, we wanted to be good at it. We wanted to get the money quick. We wanted, the owners to be paid. We didn't want them to have to worry about it. And what that took is we had a dedicated person just doing collection so that they can call immediately and just stay on them. They took care of all the 3-day stuff, and they processed the evictions. They did a lot of stuff there. And so when we collected late fees, and there was quite a bit that we collected, we would keep 50% and the other 50% would go to the owner. Let's see here. Another thing that I think I've seen that I haven't personally done, but I think is a great idea because these were a real pain, were like the roommate swaps, especially around campuses. And, they would get people wanting to swap roommates all the time, get one person off the lease, another one on. And that's really a pain. You have to rescreen them, sometimes do a new agreement, and either way, it takes a little time out of your day. So I've seen other people charge like a swap fee, 50, 100, 150, 500, whatever that is, whatever's reasonable for where you're at, and that's gonna be, again, very dependent on. It's all relative on what your property is, where it's at, and so forth. So that's another tenant-based fee that I personally like because, again, it discourages. I've had some tenants really take advantage of bouncing around like that. So I think that's some of the big tenant-based fees. Hey, listen, if you're a property management company, drop me a comment below. Let us know you're out there, whether you're watching live or it's a replay. Let us know if I missed anything on the fees. What other kind of tenant-based fees? Are there any other type of property management company fees that folks should look out for out there, and what do they cover? Why are they in place? Because again, most of the time, those fees are in place to cover some sort of expense. So drop that in the comment section below. Okay, so let me see here. All right, we don't have any questions yet in the comments, and that's perfectly fine. Hopefully I've done a thorough job kind of just going over all this stuff here. Let me just hit real quick, and I'll keep an eye out on this and check again before we let go, but wanted to touch one more time on the resources. If you're in this group, of course the group itself is an awesome resource, but every week I just think I kind of want to remind people of some of the other stuff that we have out there for you. So first off, in the files section of this group at the top of the feed, there are some forums. Anytime a member uploads a form for the group, it'll show up here. The next resource is the blog. It's a collection of articles. We release them weekly. Sometimes there's videos on there, but some helpful stuff. There's some resource stuff out there. I like to put articles out there with like links to landlord-tenant laws, to softwares, to things along those lines. And I'll use those same ones. If you've been in a group at all, you probably see me post those to some of the comments and discussions as well. So I just link right to the blog these days because there's a lot of the same questions, so I just find that easier. But check out the blog. That's easy. Just go, our website is thelandlord.com, and you just go into the services, and there's a whole section there, free resources. Also there, you know what, I used to have this. I'll put in the featured section, I'll put a post in there with links to that whole free resource section. Another thing we have in there is a landlord directory. Now, this is growing. It'll be a while before it's all encompassing, but you know, we have a lot of listings in there already, and basically what it is a directory of services that are geared towards landlords. So property management companies, you know, attorneys, handymen, insurance, anything I can think of. Anything I see people talking about or recommending in the group, I'll grab their names, put on there. If I run across a cool directory out there that is like a landlord directory, I'll grab their information and put it in there. And again, it'll be a while before you can go to every single state and have, you know, this really solid resource, but in certain aspects it's already starting to be pretty useful. So keep checking in on that one, and if you have anybody you use or somebody you'd like to put on there, please let me know. I'd love to add them on there. And then finally this week we released I just decided, because I've had this collection of forms forever, and I usually go to it when people are asking for a form, sample state forms, leases, things along those lines, and I'll link to it and I'll shoot it out. But I found myself once again sending the same form over and over and over again. So what I decided to do is just kind of package that up and create what we're calling the Landlord Forms Vault. And this is free. You do have to sign up, just because the program that I have to organize it and make it to where it's easy and accessible for you, it requires like a sign up with your email or whatever, but it's free. So, you know, there's no obligation whatsoever there, but I think it's close to about 400 forms now. And again, there are state-specific forms as well for your lease agreements and some of your notices, your notice to quit, some of your you know, right to cures, lease violation, stuff like that. And then any other forms that kind of come in along the way, I grab those and add them to them as well. So it's a growing collection, great resource. Make sure to check that out. Same thing, it's in that free resource section, landlord-launch.com. Just hit the services tab up top and you'll see free resources. You can't miss it. Okay, so I think if there's no more comments, we're going to go on and wrap it up. Keep in mind, we are going to be here every week. The plan is Tuesdays at 7, and if it changes, I'll let everybody know. I'm trying to set that up as an event. If there are any topics or something that is of interest of you that you want to know more about, like me to cover, please drop in the comment section below. Again, whether it's live or replay, whenever you're watching this, put it in there, and I will try to accommodate that as well. And then, of course, make sure to hit that like button or comment to let me know that you are watching this, making sure that these are useful and this is something you want me to continue to do. So that's it. That's what I have for this evening. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you once again for being a member. Really appreciate you being here. And we will see you next week. This is Jason. See you next time.